David May. He's been a 20-year fleet manager for Iowa DOT with a presentation on life cycle cost analysis.
So anybody here have so much money in their fleet they don't know what to do with that? Right? Okay. I see one liar in the back. Any others? Right? So, I mean, the goal of all of this is to do the right thing for equipment, whatever that means. All right, that's really the end game of all of this. And for those who have been with me for a while at this conference, this is not a new thing to me. I have come to you time and time again asking how you do it, how you show it to your executive management, and so forth. So what I'm going to show you today is actually a good news story, because at the end of this long and painful process, we've actually had a substantial and awesome outcome in the state of Iowa related to this issue. So for the next half hour or so, I'm going to cover these things. Give you a bit of background, or road to war, if you will, trends about where we are, just again to kind of set the stage. Then I'm going to talk about the research conducted by Iowa State University, and then the implications of that research and what the fallout has been as a result of that. So back to the Road to War speech back in 2001, we had a 12-year life for our snowplow trucks, and because of a budgetary crisis that was relatively short-lived, we had a huge policy shift to go from 12 to 15 years as a permanent thing. So let me just pause there while that sinks in. We had a short-term budgetary problem that we applied a long-term horrible solution in order to meet that short-term budgetary problem, okay? So that's really what set us up to be where we are. A little bit about the fleet, trying to touch this only once, here we go. Historically, we have been experiencing increased maintenance. Historically, we've had 15 years lapse between when the next safety innovation comes along and when the guy in that shop can see that, because he's not going to get a truck for the next 15 years. And in the future, you can see that we're going to have not necessarily fantastic savings. Okay, so there's a bit of a disconnect here between what the research project shows, such as it is, and what I really believe is true. There's a little bit of difference in there. I believe we're going to have different maintenance issues. I believe that we're going to have things going wrong with electronics, as contrasted with frame rails breaking in half, okay? That's not what we're going to be fighting. So there's some of the historic path and the future path. I'll give you a second to look at that. In general, I'll tell you that we drive in our light vehicles, because I can only talk to you about miles for light vehicles, because if it's 1 ton or above in our fleet, we don't even track miles. We're strictly based on hours, okay? But for our light vehicles, we drive 18 million miles a year, and in our heavy fleet, we run 500,000 hours per year, just for some sense. Fleet composition by count. Okay, so I think you can see there that the red slice is what we call class 7, 11, and 12, which in Iowa speak simply means snowplow trucks with either 1, 2, or 3 axles. Okay, that's what that means there. Okay, you see that passenger vehicles, what we call 1 through 6, categories 1 through 6, 1 ton and below, represents just over a third of the fleet there, and then all else is the green section, and that includes things like bridge snoopers and motor graders and loaders and lions and tigers and stuff. So there you go. All right. By original cost, okay, this is why it's important. Look what the red slice does there. Our snowplow truck fleet is greater than 50% of our investment. I mean, that's what's important to us. And at the end of the day, if we can't plow snow, what are we there to do, right? So that's why we have focused our purchasing power through all of these lean years. We've been focusing on snowplow trucks, much to the detriment of the green shaded portion there, which is all else. So what we're looking at here is back to the retention. This is like a retention metric. Red says that we've kept it too long over our 15-year stated life. Yellow is within a couple of years of when it's supposed to be disposed of, and green means it's within the retention zone. So you see there is a trend towards we're in the wrong place and we're going the wrong direction. And this talks only about classes 7, 11, and 12, or our snowplow truck fleet. In a larger sense, because we have focused on our snowplow truck fleet, you see the trend line is even worse for equipment at large. So a significant portion of our other equipment has been kept beyond where we were supposed to be. I'm throwing this picture up just because I love the way that this data looks. This is a way that I love to talk about the current situation, and the horizontal bar was the number, or on the vertical axis you have the number of hours that a vehicle has been used. Each little blue dot represents an individual unit in our fleet. We have approximately 900 snowplow trucks in the state of Iowa's fleet. The horizontal axis talks about the years that you've kept that thing. So we said that we want to keep them about 7,000 hours or about 15 years. So vehicles that are either above the line or to the right of the vertical line are somehow beyond retention, okay? The guys in the southwest corner are in the right spot. I just think that this is a great way to portray the data, so I'm just tossing it out just to share that technique with you. So back to why is this a problem? Well, life cycle costing and equipment operational costs, as you can see, the trend line is going up. Okay, that's where we've been on our maintenance and repair is the blue part. Fuel is red. We can't do much about fuel, but you can see that the blue line is definitely going up. You can see that there's a bit of up and down in that because some winters are simply a whole lot worse than others. Okay, but the trend line is really what we're trying to keep our eye on. When I'm talking about this part, in Iowa we differentiate between the cab chassis, all right, and all of the stuff attached to the cab and chassis, like the bed, okay, and the wing and the plow and the underbody and all that jazz. So what you're looking at here in the blue part is simply cab chassis repairs. Here's the killer right here. This is the repair on all the attached stuff. You can see that that trend line is definitely going in the wrong direction. Okay, so when we talk about replacing a truck, it comes to us as a complete turnkey unit. So when we get a new truck, we're getting all of this, we call them in Iowa speak, that's B repairs. B is the stuff attached to A is the thing with the motor and the steering wheel. So this is simply repair of the box and all the rest of it, okay? Trend line going in the wrong direction is the takeaway for this. The backlog as of that time, we believe that we had like $33.7 million worth of pent-up backlog, and that is assuming that 15 years is the life standard, okay? So that's kind of where we have been. The second bullet there, the solution to the problem needs to be implemented, so we believe, as gradually as we got into the problem in the first place. What we do not want to do, and I'll just call out, I've forgotten which state it was, I'm scanning for the face that said that he was about to get umpity-ump $1 million. I'm excited for him, but I'm also fearful for that guy that's about to spend all those millions of dollars in a one-time shot, because what he's really doing is he's setting up his, the guy that comes after him to have to face all of that. So our implementation strategy is over a 12-year period. I'll just put that out in advance. The way that we're kind of describing what we're trying to do is it needs to be replaced timely to provide predictability in expenses, and I found it to be an excellent marketing technique to include the word safety in that, okay? It just seems to resonate better. Because look, at the end of the day here, right, we're here to sell an idea, a concept. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's what you need to do in order to get additional money for your fleet. So that's really the end game. Because I have a degree in accounting, this is the capacity of my math skills here. And so all this is really saying is that N, which is normal replacement or standard replacement, is simply a function of the quantity of how many you have in the fleet divided by L, the life standard, whatever that is. So if we have 100 of them and we replace them every 5 years, probably need to buy about 20 a year, right? I'm trying to get back to explaining the concept of smoothing, right, or normalization of replacement. So that's what that's all about. So as you're trying to sell the concept, it's important. I mean, we're here to talk about snowplow trucks, but in order to get there, let me tell you how many motor graders we've reduced. Let me explain to you that there's the tree spade that I'm trying to sell to the gentleman in the back row there, right? Because he used to work in forestry. So not that he's actually going to buy this, but you know, who knows, right? He used to be in forestry. These are all the things that we have reduced in a fairly short period of time, and by fairly short period of time, I mean over the course of a couple of years. These are the kinds of reductions that we've experienced. These are the classes of equipment that we've eliminated completely. You see that we are no longer in the highway helper business. Highway helper is the quick clearance vehicle service where we'll either help you push your car to the shoulder, we'll give you a gallon of gas, we'll help you fix a tire. We just want you to quit clogging up the road, right? Whatever that takes. We have outsourced that. It's not that we quit doing it. In fact, we do it even more. It's just that it's not my vehicle that's out there, and it's not a department employee any longer. We have now contracted that service from a private vendor. But from a fleet perspective, we lock, stock, and barrel got rid of the highway helper class. So those are the things that we're getting away from. All right, now for what you've all been waiting for here, right? This is really what's what caused you to buy your tickets to this event today. Life cycle analysis research conducted by Iowa State University under the direction of Dr. Kevin Scheibe and Sri Nalakanta. And I don't exactly understand their relationship with Virginia Tech, but nevertheless, they kind of collaborated with some of their academician friends out east. And so that's who was involved from the academic side of this. So what did we do? We gave to Iowa State University in excess of 1 million repair records that covered a period from about 2005 to about 2013. Okay, that's what we did. We aggregated, no, not aggregated, we pulled out individually 1 million repair records and said, here you go, you're smart folks, do your best with that. By the way, tell us when we need to sell our trucks, okay? That was really the problem set such as it was understood. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I'll tell you I have a little bit of reservations about a whole bunch of this stuff, okay? Starting first with, remember how we differentiated between A and B repairs, right? A is cab chassis, B is stuff attached to it. We do not require, as a matter of horrible accounting practice, okay? We do not require that if you're repairing a B thing, that you even tell us what B thing you're repairing. It can just be characterized as repair of B stuff. So given that we don't really know what the heck we just repaired, it's difficult to tie that back to a piece of A equipment and to know an awful lot about the timing of that. So I view that as a bit of a study limitation. And as a matter of fact, Dr. Scheibe and Nalakanta and I went round and round and round. They wanted to eliminate it summarily. But because our repairs, if you think back to the blue graph that went up like this, it is not something that can be ignored completely. So there was a bit of negotiation. They included that, but in a way that, wasn't quite as direct as it could have been had we had better accounting practices up front. Okay. The next thing that I'll tell you is that we didn't really have a good check of our data. Okay. My favorite story to tell about that is when we make a repair, we ask you to tell us what the hour meter was at the time that the repair was made. Okay. So all we're saying there is tell us that there were 1,572 hours on the hour meter at the time of the repair. Seems reasonable. And so we had a new mechanic who hadn't been with the department for very long. And as he was filling out that electronically, he observed that on the odometer had, what, we'll just say 34,728 miles. Who knows what it was, right? And so he plugged that figure dutifully into the box where it said, how many hours did it take you to complete this work order?
Did it take you?
How many hours did it take you to complete the work order? And to that, he answered 34,000 to whatever, right? So you do the math. And you tell me how many dollars that headlight change cost, okay? So as a result of this, we discovered that we had in excess of a $1 million headlight change according to this bogus data, right? So what I'm really leading to there is there was a lot of, and I learned this is a new vocabulary word, and for those who don't know this, don't be embarrassed because I had to go look it up, data munging. Data munging means you simply massage the data to make it usable for you, right? Dr. Scheibe taught me that word, thank you very much. Okay, so at any rate, so there was months and months and months of data munging that went on before they could even begin, because they had to scrub through all this stuff. I mean, because back to the phrase before, garbage in, garbage out, okay? We cannot turn garbage to gospel, although there's a bit of that here, okay? So there you go. Yeah, the other thing that makes me a bit suspicious about all of this is the data that we had from trucks 2005 to 2013, we weren't even in the throes of all this emission stuff yet. Okay, that ought to scare the heck out of you. Because what we're talking about is repairing rust, corrosion, related, you know, trucks going bad. We've got cabs falling down on frame rails, for crying out loud. I mean, that's just not okay. And so, but moving forward, we're talking about repairing emission systems that are just horribly expensive, as we all know. So that's why I said early on, I'm not entirely convinced that replacing trucks faster is going to be all that much cheaper because of the fact that the new trucks are in fact more complex. However, failing to replace them is not an acceptable strategy either, okay? So that all just needs to be understood by the decision makers. As a result of the data that we gave them, and I can't begin to talk this part of it at all, they created a model that, to me, it's like a black box, right? You pour the data in the top, and this is what came out the back end. The model shows that the cost of ownership experience is minimized at the place where the number is the lowest. So in this case, it says that the model shows that to maintain Class 7, that means single axle trucks, will decrease, saving an annual amount of $1.7 million per year while reducing downtime and freeing up thousands of hours of our technicians' time because they're not fixing what they would have otherwise been fixing, right? Those were the conclusions of Iowa State University. That's what they said. And this is just for Class 7 trucks. Same data, Class 12. Okay? What it says here is that the cost of ownership experience is minimized at the 6-year level. Let me go back a slide. This is showing that it's minimized at the 7-year for 12s. So there it is for the Class 12s. Depicted a different way, it's showing that at about the 6-year level for Class 12s, that's where turnover is optimized, 6 years. So remember, we're at 15 years. That's what we say we're going to do. What we're really doing is keeping them 17, by the way. I think I skipped over that part. We aspire to keep them 15. The reality is we keep them 17 years and longer, a fraction over 17. And this is where we're supposed to be, at less than half of that. So says Iowa State as a result of this. Yes, sir?
Can you move back to that one slide? Your early years, you're seeing some high 29, 25 million.
Yeah, so let me explain what...
Capitalized cost as well?
Right, so what that is to say, if we were to replace, hypothetically, the model says, if we were to replace the truck every doggone year, the cost would be $29,632,000, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Because of the steep depreciation in the first year, that's what it would cost us to do that. All right? Now, if we were to replace them every 2 years and then every 3 years, and even that's not realistic because we couldn't push that many trucks through the shop. I mean, remember, this is what the model says, and there's a little bit of a disconnect between the practical reality of it, but nevertheless, back to practical reality, politically, we can't talk about replacing them every 6 and 8 years. That's just not going to happen. So as a result of this information, we did change our practice. We chose to go from 15 down to 12 years as a result of this. Okay, that was the outcome within our executive leadership in the state of Iowa. That's what they chose to do as a result of this. And in their defense, I mean, the guy that has to go to the legislature, which is not me in the state of Iowa, my boss's boss is the one that actually goes down and endures the cross-examination, right? And what he said makes a lot of sense. He says, I can't sell something I'm not believing, okay? And even if I do believe it, I still can't sell something that they'll never buy. And so if you really believe that that is a political reality, I mean, I feel really good about the fact that we moved away from the 15 years to 12. But I feel even better about the fact that now that we have adopted 12 through a fairly deliberate process, collaborated by our friends at Iowa State University, we can hold them to that. And I truly expect that we will be funded into the future. This is not a one and done thing. This is this is not exactly the language that we would have used with our legislature, but we have now a contract with them that they have committed to, and their practice is once you get funded at this level, we don't have like zero base funding, okay? That's your new base, and so we believe that we'll be able to sustain this moving forward. So now on to the implementation strategy, and I already kind of let this out of the bag. I say it's going to take 12 years to do this. We got into it slowly, we need to get out of it slowly. So for the next 12 years, we're going to buy, back to the N equals Q divided by L thing, we're going to buy 75 trucks a year. Okay, that's what it is, all right? Which is up from about 60 of where we've been historically. So that's kind of the math on that. We're not proposing any mix in the ratio between singles and tandems. Okay, right now we're at about a 40% single axle, 60% tandem axle. I realize that different states have different reasons for doing different things. That's just where we're at, okay? And accelerating implementation will cause the bubble in the future, and I kind of spoke to that point just a little bit earlier. Projected benefits are these. And the question down at the bottom is, what else do you need in order to make a good decision? I mean, part of this briefing was set up as a decision brief for our executive management. What else do you think you need to know? And I think what we heard back from them was, we're ready to take this to the legislature. And they have done that now. And the legislature has bought off on this. And now we are in the first wave of getting our new trucks as a result of that. So, what are your takeaways from this? Well, here's what I think. A bit of well-placed data, and in our case, the well-placed data is the ISU study, planted and nurtured, talked about, presented, represented, can actually result in additional equipment dollars if they can't resist the sales pitch. What else do you need to know? What else do you need to know? I mean, keep asking that question. That will let you hear their objections and their concerns and whatnot, and then you need to figure out how to meet those as a way to get additional money. The data took months. Data cleansing took months. In fact, this whole project has taken years. I've talked to you. I've come to this meeting for a couple of years running now, talking about how I'm struggling to explain it in a way that will get us the right outcome, and this is it. So the very last thing at the bottom, this did take a long time. When we got into this agreement with Iowa State University, they told us right up front, they said, if you want this fast, go hire a consultant, because that's not us. They said, we'll do a good job. We'll give you a high quality product, but we are an academic institution, and we're going to have grad students work this thing, and it will be according to the academic cycle. And yes, we're going to have to train and retrain subsequent waves of grad students, because we're going to be graduating the last group, and the next group's the one that's going to finish this project up. So that's just the reality of doing business with the university. We paid them about $80,000 for this, which is absolutely nothing but a token payment just to make it legal somehow. I mean, their investment in this was far in excess of that. I mean, Dr. Scheibe and Dr. Nalakanta probably, if you really accounted for their hours on this, they probably burned through that $80,000 themselves, just between the two of them, and that's assuming grad students are free, which none of that's really true. So the point is that this was really an awesome bargain for us. So, our proposed path is sustainable, and that really equates to timely replacement. Safety is improved, and significant cuts in the fleet size, not related to snowplow trucks, because we're not cutting those. You know, nobody's reducing the number of lane miles we're plowing in Iowa, okay? But because we have shown good stewardship of the resources elsewhere, they were willing to sign up for this. So that is what you came for to see today, I think. Questions?
Was there any analysis on the you're reporting engine hours? You're replacing strictly on time. Was there any analysis on what the appropriate replacement should be based on utilization, or you're just going to replace?
So the question is, did we look at engine hours as an alternative of longevity? Okay, and the answer to the question is yes, we did. Okay, but because of the way the data came out, their recommendation, I mean, we went back and forth about that, and ultimately they chose to state their recommendation in terms of longevity.
Dave, through that study and stuff, was there anything identified in there for reasons why you guys had such high costs, repair costs and stuff, to where you might be able to identify spec changes to be able to, so you wouldn't have as high as repair and trucks?
Yeah, so the question is, might we have been able to mitigate some of the increased repair costs through better specs and just buying better equipment in the first place? Let me just think about that for a minute. We believe that we're always buying the best equipment that we can anyway, so this didn't necessarily precipitate a spec change. I mean, really what we're talking about is corrosion to a large degree. And back to your point, we have already done that to the extent that we're already buying stainless box corners now. Okay, we didn't buy stainless box corners back in the dark ages, but we've evolved because we've replaced the box corners on every box of every old truck, and so now we just spec that as a new thing. So we have evolved to some degree, but here's the deal, right? When you have a spec that reduces corrosion, how long is it going to take you to know that you've done a good thing? I'm here to tell you, you're not going to know if you've done any good at all for at least 5 to 7 years. It's 5 to 7 years between your spec change and your noticing that you've actually done something for yourself. So the incredibly long flash to bang time here is difficult to work with.
Stainless box corner.
What is a stainless box corner? A stainless box corner is an alternative to the whole stainless thing.
So you just put them in the corner?
Just in the corners. Yep. Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know, more of a question to back. This is exactly the stuff that we're doing the same thing in Minnesota. So, and just this afternoon, I was on a conference call and we're looking at, we got some extra funding for next year, and we've been pitching some of this, exactly what you're putting up there. I mentioned earlier there our stacked bar chart. You show your repair costs going up. We were able, like I said, we identify here's how much of our equipment is out of life cycle, and here's how much we're spending repairing those pieces of equipment. So at the meeting today, that was probably a year ago, we put this. He asked about that. So because we've been putting new money into the fleet, what is the result? How does that? Because they remembered that chart, which was yes. Wonderful. Like how can you get some information where they're going to start listening to? So we remembered that chart and remembered the discussion that says, okay, now where are we now? Because as we put new iron in, he wants to see that number shrinking down, which just simply supports the concept that everybody in your knows is that your older iron is costing you more than your new stuff. With the caveat being you have some of this emission stuff, you can't keep it on the road.
Emissions and electronics are the wild card in here that really make all of this a little bit, well, I'll just, emissions and electronics are the wild card.
But so exactly what you're talking about is that these tools were what we've been able to use to help get additional funding into our fleet right now. Last year before, we were this close to having it legislatively earmarked as fleet dollars, but so now we're still advocating that we need additional dollars for the fleet, and it's just through this same stuff you produce every year.
Yeah. You just sparked another thought that I want to toss out there about, I mean, look, we're here to sell a concept, right? And so one of the things that I didn't even see coming, but this is what happened, now that Iowa State University has done all of this, guess what they want to do? They want to go publish it, right? So now all of a sudden, you've got these high-ranking folks within the university that are rubbing elbows with the same politicians as our executives are rubbing elbows with, and now suddenly the same story is being told by two different significant institutions, and that tends to sell it as well. So, plus when Iowa State University within their academic channels says, hey, here is an example of where we took a massive data set and we applied a bunch of grad students against it, and we had this collaborative effort, and we believe that, I mean, because Iowa State is going to say we're going to save, you know, millions and millions as a result of adopting this. I mean, that was their conclusion. Hey, that's a powerful story that they have been able to get out, and now Iowa State's getting interview requests from various trade journals and other institutions to talk about, you know, this whole partnership concept, and do we really believe this stuff, and what else, and what else, and what else. So there's been a lot of marketing academically of this study that shows that the partnership is a viable concept and so forth, which only tends to help the credibility of my argument, which is we need to change our depreciation or our retention cycle for trucks.
On that last page, your savings showed like 4.4 million. Now, earlier your graph was showing if you did it at 6 years, it was only 1.7. I'm trying to reconcile.
You can't reconcile that. Yeah, sorry. I mean, ISU is going to say, assuming this set of parameters, here's what you're going to save. You tweak that a little bit, and it's going to be something else. You add this to that. I mean, look, I have a degree in accounting, which is why I'm not going to be even. I'm not going to try this.
Any other equipment, or you just doing it?
So I hear the question that I hear is, are we going to apply this with other equipment types, or are we snow trucks one and done? The vision was that we would do additional equipment types with this. Now, with the onset of AssetWorks, okay, and what I'm about to tell you is not a commercial for any particular product, right? But what we bought was the FA product of AssetWorks, and we also bought the CAM product that goes around the FA product. And what the gestures mean is this. FA is a product that helps you manage vehicles that are in your fleet. FA does not manage vehicles that are almost in your fleet. FA does not imagine vehicles that you think about buying or that you've even taken delivery of and you're still upfitting. FA doesn't do much for that. FA doesn't help you sell that vehicle. It doesn't provide anything about a historical record that said that we sold equipment number, you know, whatever, to Joe Bonioci at 123 Main Street for $4,728, but CAM does. So CAM is like the bread around the meat of the AssetWorks sandwich, is the way that I've chosen to describe that. So if you ever hear that phraseology again, you'll know that that was mine and someone else has stolen it, which is great. So CAM, as a part of that, has a replacement analysis functionality. So we should be able to use the CAM replacement functionality to do similar analysis, but it will be a different black box through which the data is being run.
And if I could step in here, you all should be able to do that starting very soon when we receive the results of the project that is due in any minute now.
Yes.
There will be an Excel tool and an ability to import your data in, and it will produce graphs and a number, and you should be able to use that then to argue that my fleet with my numbers, this tool says I should be replacing at this point or in this range. I'm hopeful that we will have that ability. Yeah, we'll have to massage the numbers a little bit to get it to fit into their tool, but not a lot, I don't think. And it is Excel, so there are some things that are going to be, it's not just push a button and you're done, but it should be good, I think.
Yeah, that's a great point, because all of this is being, I don't want to say duplicated, but there's a much larger project to study the same question. And that's the one that, you know, that project like this one has been years and years and years in the making. I mean, I remember Alabama. How many years ago was that? And we identified that that was the #1 project that we needed to champion. And we still don't have a product yet, but we're on the cusp of it after all these years. And so my hope is that we'll be able to use that along with the CAM functionality.
I guess I should also say, for all of you, that dye management is on the agenda for the subcommittee on maintenance in Rhode Island to make a presentation to all your maintenance engineers that are going to be there. And so there's a good chance that you're all going to be inundated by questions from your maintenance engineers saying, hey, are you aware of this? This is out now. We should be trying to use it.
And you can look like a rock star when you say, yes, I voted to have that as the project that needs to actually be done. Because Tim's exactly right. That is where that started.
Tim, on this, the state DOTs are you going to be able to see that before it gets presented?
We've seen it. The research panel has seen it, and we sent it back for some tweaking. Hopefully we'll get a chance to see it before it's presented, but I'm not positive about that. But we certainly have seen the concept and what it can, the tool and what it can. Some of us have even applied our numbers to it. I haven't, but other states have worked on putting their numbers in to see what would happen.
Tim, will the crafters of that work be available for a presentation at next year's event?
I don't see why not. Yeah, for sure.
Produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation.